today we are thrilled to welcome Jacob VanSickle, the Executive Director of Bike Cleveland. This is a role in which he has served since 2012. Prior to that, he was working in Slavic Village in the Development Corporation as the Active Living Coordinator, and he did just that. Everything in his power to activate the neighborhood, so much so that it was a leadership team from Slavic Village that led to the creation of Bike Cleveland. And of course, he quickly rose and took the helm and never looked back. He has served to advance Velisano, the Ohio City Bike Co-op, and currently serves on the Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency, familiarly known as NOACA, on their transportation subcommittee. He has been a Clevelander for 13 years. So with that, welcome, Jacob.
Thanks, Marianne, and thanks, Bob. Yeah, I have just a few slides to share with you guys. For those that aren't familiar with Bike Cleveland, a few of those, as well as some data we're seeing during this coronavirus pandemic, and then look forward to a conversation about what we hope to see following as things start opening back up. So to start, for those that aren't familiar with Bike Cleveland, we're the region's bicycle advocacy organization. Our mission is to create a region that's sustainable, connected, healthy, and vibrant by promoting bicycling and advocating for safe and equitable transportation for all. We are a membership-based organization, and we have over 1,000 members spread across the 5-county region. And we have a number of chapters in some of the suburban communities where we lean on the gracious time of volunteers to help replicate or create some of their own programs in other communities that we do. Our work can really be split up into these 4 buckets: events and outreach. So we have programs where we work with youth to help them earn a bike. We have programs where we equip volunteers with bike lights and they ride around at night and give lights away to people that are riding at night without them to improve safety. We have group rides. If any of you followed our work during Bike Month, we did a number of social distanced type events where we provided some routes for people to go and explore the city all by bike. And then we also do a number of education programs, both for individuals and youth and seniors. But we also have education programs where we work with decision makers and leaders, getting them out on bike and showing them what it's like to be out on a bike in the city of Cleveland. Our key work, though, is our infrastructure and policy work. So we really work hard with community development corporations and with the city of Cleveland to push for more bike lanes and connecting our bike network. Since I started at Bike Cleveland in 2012, we've seen a 176% increase in bike lanes and trails in the city of Cleveland alone. And then we also do a lot of policy work. So we worked with city council to pass the city's 3-foot passing law, which is now a statewide law that requires motorists to give cyclists at least 3 feet of space when they're passing them on the roadway. We're working with city council and the city administration to create a Vision Zero action plan, which will aim to reduce, eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways, which will be accompanied with a number of policy pieces as well. And we worked with city planning to create the city's Safe Routes to School Travel Plan, which helps prioritize infrastructure investments and safety improvements and programs around schools to ensure kids can bike and walk to school safely. So all that, those programs exist, and we're in the process of reevaluating them in the social distance or physically distanced world. Part of that, we've been looking at a lot of data on how people are getting around in Cleveland and Cuyahoga County. So this is data provided by Streetlight Data Insights. And you can see here, as of May 21st, vehicle miles traveled, so the number of miles that people are driving their vehicles, is down 40% in Cuyahoga County. I've been watching these numbers on a weekly or daily basis. At one point, we were down 80% of people not traveling in Cuyahoga County by automobile. And you can see the trend of what this is leading to. Across the country and across our city, bike shops are booming. The hashtag bike boom is trending on Twitter as more people are turning to biking and walking as a means to get around, both for transportation, getting to essential jobs, going to take care of loved ones, getting to the grocery store, but also as a way to ensure your physical health is good and your mental health. Being cooped up in the house all the time can get to people. So being able to get out and get on some trails or bike lanes and get around the city to see other people is a great way to do that. And then when we see bike shops are busy, we see anecdotally more people out riding, we start to look at additional data. And this is data from Strava Metro. So if you utilize the Strava app on your phone, these are the trips that are counted in this data. And we saw that in March of 2020, bike trips were up 43%. It ticked back down a little bit in April, still up 10% though. And then astonishingly, walking trips in March of 2020 were up 94%. And in April, they're still up 51%. And this is in the city of Cleveland proper data. When I think about kind of transitioning our work kind of in this new realm, in the first couple of weeks of the stay-at-home order, we started thinking about what can we do in the city of Cleveland to ensure people have space to be physically distant, but also have space to recreate and still be physically active within the guidelines that are provided by experts. So we worked with the Cleveland Metro Parks to close about 5 miles of parkways in the Park District, both as a way to kind of create that space, but also to help prevent crowding within the park so that we can ensure that our parks stay open. We recently launched a program called Bike Match, knowing that there's an unprecedented bike shortage in the country. We know that there are people out there that have bikes sitting in the garage collecting dust. And then we know there's people that want bikes. So we created a system actually modeled after one that was created in New York City by Transportation Alternatives called Bike Match, where if you have an extra bike, you can fill out a form and let us know. And then we're also collecting information from people that need a bike and then matching those two together to be able to get bikes into the hands of people that need them or want to be able to ride them. So anybody listening, if you have a bike, go to bikecleveland.org/bike match and fill out our form. We currently have about 40 people that are in need of a bike. So if you have an extra bike in the garage, we encourage you to fill it out. We're also in the process of creating a plan called Connecting Communities that we're using to help guide our advocacy efforts in terms of building out a connected bike network. I often tell people, if we built our interstate highway system the way we build our bike networks, our bike lanes, where there's a mile here, a half a mile there, nobody would have ever started driving. So we really want to think about, how can we connect our bike network in as safe, stress-free way as possible to help encourage and create safe environments for people to bike, to work, for recreation, to the grocery store, wherever they might need to go. And then a lot of our work has gone virtual. So we've worked on creating routes for people to be able to, go visit all the Cleveland script signs or go visit murals across the city of Cleveland they may not have seen before, kind of these curated routes. We've also taken a lot of our education programs online. You can see some of our recorded Zoom meetings at bikecleveland.org, where we teach people how to fix their own flat on their bicycle. So it's really kind of this realm that we're in, where we're trying to create, we're seeing a growth in people riding and growth in people walking. We want to be able to create opportunities to teach people how to do it safely. And I think now we're kind of in this realm where we see cities across the country, rethinking mobility in kind of this COVID-19 era. We know that, ridership on RTA is down. We don't want to see people, that have the opportunity to be able to hop in a car as opposed to take RTA, get in a car. So what can we do as a region to make sure we're creating environments where people feel safe and comfortable hopping on a bike and doing it safely? So doing things like, creating bike boulevards where you're creating limited access roads for people to, that have low traffic for people to bike with their families safely. Doing things like emergency bike lanes where, you're taking pieces and parts of plans that you've adopted and rapidly implementing them really cheaply with paint and plastic posts to, fill a gap in your bike network or to create a safe connection. Things like closing roadways for businesses to be able to, operate their restaurants in the street, create more space outside. things like that. It's for us, it's really about rethinking this public space of the roadway, and rethinking how we can use it, to better our environment, but two, to help provide spaces for businesses to thrive and for people to be socially distant. Um, so that's basically my presentation there. I'm open to any questions that anybody might have about some of the work that we're doing, some of the data we're seeing, both locally and across the country, and how that may impact how people are getting around kind of, during this coronavirus pandemic, and how we can kind of leverage that to ensure that people are doing it in the future too.
That's great. Thank you, Jacob, and really appreciate all the work that you're doing. So everyone that's on the call, or on the Zoom here, just so you know, we will send a follow-up email, and I'll have links to the Bike Cleveland website and some specific questions around the bike match. Question that had is, what's the condition of the bike that's needed for the bike match, and are helmets provided to individuals that are picking them up, or is that something that's also accepted?
Yeah, so we, in terms of bikes that are accepted, on our form, we simply ask that the bikes are in working order, and that the individual donating the bike to the individual cleans it up, wipes it down with a Clorox wipe, or a paper towel with some hand sanitizer on it to make sure it's clean. The gauge that I like to use, if you wouldn't give that bike to your grandma to ride it, it's probably not in good working order to be given to somebody else. So we're really looking for bikes that are in good working order. Make sure the tires are pumped up, make sure everything is, again, in good working order. In terms of helmets, we're not asking people to give helmets generally for sanitary purposes. But in the email, when we match people, we'll have a thing in there, a note in there that's saying, if you need a helmet, let us know. We can drop one in the mail to folks that are receiving bikes.
Great. I see some questions coming in here. One that was asked real quick. Can you clarify? I think it was, I don't remember the name of it, but the driving data for Cuyahoga County. From where did you pull that information? And then we can include that as well.
Yeah, so that's from a program called Streetlight Data Insights.
Okay.
I can send you the link, Bob. Actually, it's an open source site where they actually show vehicle mile traveled per county basis across the United States, and how it's gone down or up in various areas. So they utilize data from connected cars or people's smartphones to collect data on how many miles people are traveling, and they have a baseline of before stay-at-home orders were issued, and that's the baseline they use to come up with a percentage decrease. And for a refresher, the data, as of May 21st, Cuyahoga County vehicle miles traveled were down about 40%.
Okay, great. Thank you. So a question about Velosano and Fundo have been canceled for 2020. When is it that you foresee some of these large rides and gatherings commencing again? Yeah,
just to clarify, the Fundo was canceled. That's our big fundraising ride that starts at Edgewater Park. Usually takes place in the end of August. We canceled it this year. It's a big fundraiser for Bike Cleveland, but for us, at least at this point, getting together, 1,000 to 1,500 people in an area for a start finish of a ride just didn't seem like the smart thing for us to do. Velosano itself has gone virtual, so you can still register, still raise money for the important cancer research that ride does, and you can go out and do a ride on your own, or track your gardening. And there's many ways you can still get involved with Velosano. But in terms of at least from our perspective of when we plan to begin again doing in-person group rides, it's still up in the air. We'll follow all the guidance from Governor DeWine and health experts that say when it's safe again to begin doing kind of group or mass rides. There may be a point where we begin to do our education programs in person with limited number of people, with appropriate distancing between individuals, just because some of those programs are really meant to be out on a bike, out on the road, so people can experience real life conditions. But in terms of big group rides, I would say, at least for us, for Bike Cleveland organizing them, they're on hold probably at least for the rest of the summer. We will continue though to put together different routes. Some of our favorite routes are routes people send to us. that people can go out and ride on their own, experience new places in Cleveland or in Cuyahoga County. So watch our website for those.
Great. Well, and speaking of the events, I know that an important one for you is the Ride of Silence that you had last week, and just thought you might share a word about that remembrance and that event, and kind of how that came together this year.
Yeah, so every year we work with a national group called the Ride of Silence and host a local ride in memory of cyclists that have been injured or killed riding their bicycles. And it always takes place the third Wednesday of May during Bike Month. So this year we made it go virtual. So we posted an event on Facebook, and we asked people to go on Facebook and share their story, go for a ride that day and share their story about who they're riding in memory of. And kind of create a community in that sense. It was pretty successful. We had, I think, 9 or 10 people go on there and post some good videos from individuals who had lost someone or who had been seriously injured while bicycling.
Thanks. So, question here in terms of partnership, we're working with the city of Cleveland or other municipalities about closing certain streets on a more permanent basis. If that is the case, are there streets you can name that are most likely candidates or maybe on the wish list?
Yeah, we've thought about this, and we've talked with some city planners about the possibility of closing off some roads. When we worked with the Cleveland Metro Parks to close some parkways, that was great, but we really wanted to try to create some closed parkways for people in the city of Cleveland that might not be able to get out to the metro parks to be able to, recreate or get around in a safe environment. And one of the first streets that came to mind for us was MLK Boulevard. But in talking with city planning and folks at University Circle Link, knowing that, that's a major road for hospital workers to get to the Cleveland Clinic and UH, it didn't seem very feasible. We are in conversations, both, and have had conversations with both the metro parks and with the city of Cleveland about potentially maybe closing the Shoreway maybe a couple times to help alleviate crowding at Edgewater Park. I think the other idea we've been having conversations around is kind of this idea of slow streets, where streets aren't permanently closed or it's not a hard closure, but it's limited access. So residents can still access the roads, but limiting the number of cars that are on there to kind of create a safer environment for people that might not feel comfortable riding on streets where there's a lot of traffic. I think for us, the important part is, finding ways to really complete the bike network. We'd really love to see, the city of Cleveland start to think about, where are these gaps in the bike network? And that's one of the things we're working on with our Connecting Communities plan is talking with cyclists, people that are out riding, and finding out, where are the gaps in the network that you see? Where do you feel least comfortable riding? And then we'll work with the city to kind of push for improvements and filling those gaps and those connections to create safe places for people to bike and run.
Great. So a data related question in terms of when you're looking at the difference between recreational biking versus biking for transportation to go from point A to point B. Do you have some data in terms of changes in patterns in terms of what that looks like? Are you able to break it out a little bit?
Yeah, we can break out the Strava Metro data can be broken out versus commute and leisure. And looking at the data, it's an increase on both. It was a little bit higher on the leisure side. I think partly because, a lot of people aren't working, unfortunately, right now. So they're not commuting to work, but they're going out, maybe during the day or in the evening to go out for a leisurely bike ride to help them, ensure they're physically fit still once all this is done. We do have access to some additional data through Streetlight around commuting data, but I haven't had a chance to upload the layer files and run the data to see, kind of pre and post COVID-19 how that's been affected. I think the other piece, I'll go back to a data point. There was a study released by Ohio State University that showed as less people were driving, the speeds of vehicles were up. And I think for us, that indicates, we have very wide, very long roads that that help encourage people to drive fast. So I think that's another issue we really need to address as a city, is kind of making sure our streets are designed in a way where, even when there is no traffic, people driving still go the speed limit, which then will make it safer for people biking and walking as well.
There are maps that pinpoint dangerous intersections for car traffic, and a question's come up. Is there a similar map or some way within the biking community where it's socialized that where the dangerous intersections for bicyclists are?
Yeah, so in terms of user input, in our Connecting Communities plan, there's a GIS tool on there where you can input a pin at a problem area or an opportunity area that you don't feel safe riding. So if you go to bikecleveland.org/connecting-communities, you can see a link to that tool on there and submit the data. We also have an ongoing tool separate of Connecting Communities at our website called bikecleveland.org/report-it, where individuals can submit areas where they may have had a close call of being hit by a car while they're biking or walking, or experienced a road rage incident. And we're using that data as part of the city's Vision Zero initiative to be a little bit more proactive. We have access to where crashes happen, but thinking about, where do people feel unsafe, or where are they experiencing unsafe behaviors, and then thinking about, what can we do to address that through enforcement or through design changes as well.
And on your website, you already mentioned you have some videos that are, helpful instructional tools for people to utilize. Have you considered or talked about some of your educational classes and turning that into a virtual platform and continuing that sort of outreach while some of the lockdown is continuing?
Yeah, we will continue that. Initially when the lockdown started, we worked with some local bike shops to create some kind of short, quick 2-minute videos to make sure people, know some of the basics about getting their bike going so they can get out and ride. And then we did a longer 1.5 hour long educational video through our Bike Smarts program about how to fix your flat and how to change a flat, but also how to patch it. And we'll continue to do that, kind of as this lockdown is going on, and as we can't meet in person. Our next one is the third Tuesday in June. I don't recall exactly what that topic is, but then at the end of June, June 30th, we're going to do a traffic skills class online, where we teach people, how to ride safely in the road, mixing with traffic, learning hand signals and lane position and all the things you need to know to make sure you're riding safely while mixing with automobile traffic. That's June 30th. So.
Yeah, I'll include that in the follow-up. Thank you. How does Cleveland compare with some of our peered cities when it comes to the creation of bike laws and promoting safety as a sort of larger cultural piece?
Since I started at Bike Cleveland, it's certainly, improved. As I mentioned earlier, we've seen a 176% increase in bike facilities, both in bike lanes and trails, since 2012. But we still have a long way to go. We've hit a lot of the easy pieces that are easy in terms of, when a street's being repaved or restriped. Likely it will get a bike lane. There have been some that haven't, and that's been a criticism we've had of the city of Cleveland in the past. But we've come a long way. In our Connecting Community survey, there's a question on there that asks, over the past 5 years, have things improved or stayed the same or gotten worse? And majority of people indicate, it has gotten better. But being a bike advocacy group, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say there's certainly more we could be doing. And there's also some really cool projects on deck that will happen in the near future, like on Superior Avenue from Public Square out to East 55th, a planned middle of the road protected bike lane called the Midway. So we're really excited about that project, and certainly a lot of the projects on the near west side that the Metro Parks are working on in terms of trail connectivity to the towpath are really exciting. And I think those projects where we're really creating environments where people don't have to mix with motor vehicles will help kind of get us to that tipping point of people feeling comfortable to bike for everyday purposes more often.
That's great. Well, thanks, Jacob. Before I turn it over to Marianne to close us up, just wanted to see if you had any final thoughts or places you wanted to point people. Councilman is prompting you about the downtown connector as well as a great resource.
Yeah. So that's another great trail in the works. It's a trail that would connect to the towpath to the south through Slavic Village and the Morgana Run Trail, and then heading north along Interstate 77 up to Lorraine Carnegie Bridge. So it's a great connector for the Slavic Village and neighborhood and up to downtown. We're really excited about that one too. Thanks, Tony B, for pointing that one out. I also like to point out, I think Tony B's wearing a Bike Cleveland t-shirt, which is pretty exciting too.
There it is. That's great. Thank you, Jacob. Really appreciate your expertise and passion sharing with us, and certainly everything you're doing to help promote a safer and more vibrant culture here in the city. And want to turn it back over to Marianne, who can let us know what's on the horizon.
Thanks so much, Bob and Jacob. Thanks. It's so exciting to know all that can be happening in Cleveland and just everything that you're doing to create greater awareness of biking opportunities for all of us. Thank you.